Greetings, Piper people. I hope your day is wonderful and everything is going very well. I want to talk today about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you haven't heard about this before, this is going to be our outside text. We've been looking at Caged Bird, and hopefully you've kind of seen some of those ideas about Caged Bird and how it works. You've been able to identify a lot of those ideas and use the levels of understanding to be able to analyze the text in a lot of ways. Make sure that before you start this video or get into Maslow that you have some context on Maya Angelou, that you finished that assignment on the quick kind of fact sheet. But I also want you to have gone through those levels of understanding pretty thoroughly, because that leads us to Maslow. If you're skipping ahead, then there will be some confusion. And when we get into like actually writing the paper itself, then it's going to be harder on you. So to mitigate all of that, make sure that you've gone through those steps first. Everything is cumulative. Now, let's get into Maslow. So what I have here, I'm going to go through a couple screens as we go through the text itself. We're going to start, oops, my screen kind of went. We're going to start by looking at where Maslow is, where it comes from, all of those kind of things. And in here in the module, I have a link to simple psychology. Now, this is by no means like a major psychological theory that we're getting into right now. We're not going to take it super deep. We're going to look at that surface level, but it's going to give us that context just to be able to understand where that critical thinking comes in and the application. Remember that when we're doing that critical thinking, the application part, that rereading part, we're looking to see how can we take what we have learned and analyzed and communicated and apply it to something else, or in vice versa, apply an outside text kind of as a lens to help understand and use what we have learned and kind of being able to explain that world. So this lens is going to be like my glasses. I can't see very well without them, but I put the lenses on. This is going to be my Maslow. This is going to help me look at Caged Bird on a different level and see where it comes from. Our understanding of these birds are going to just go kind of crazy here. So let's look at the simple psychology so you can see what this is. This will take you to that link here. And this will give you a little bit more in depth into what Maslow's hierarchy is about. I'm going to give you an overview, but I wanted to show you like this will help you look at the various needs and how it works if you want to go a little bit further into the material. If you don't want to, which is up to you, then we're going to be able to look at this whole context. So I've downloaded it and put it right, oops, excuse me, wrong one. Here we go. So now Maslow is a researcher who says that in order for us to reach our greatest potential, to reach self-actualization, so the pinnacle of our success, we've got to go through some steps first. We have to satisfy some various needs before we can make it. So he starts, this is why he sets it up in a pyramid structure, because there's a foundation first. So he sets it up into three sections: basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs. And it's important to know that Maslow has been updated over the years. And there's like a lot of different charts that have the same basic information, but sometimes they'll have more detail and everything. For our purposes, this is the chart that we're going to use, but overall, they're pretty much the same. Now, Maslow says in order for us to reach that pinnacle, we got to start with those basic needs. So this is where we go to this purple section, the physiological needs. We have to, in order to survive, in order to sustain life, we must have the physiological needs met. Food, water, warmth, and rest. Of course, that's really important. Some of the charts will put in sex in there as well, even kind of like continuation of a species and all that kind of stuff. But it would make sense. Each of these birds are going to have food, water, warmth, and rest in order just to survive, right? All of us have to do that. So if we have those needs met, then Maslow says we move up to the next level of basic needs, and that is our safety needs. Our safety needs is about our security, the idea of having shelter, of just being safe in general. And when you look at birds, especially the birds that are in caged bird here, most students really don't think of these birds as large birds of prey, or like a bald eagle or something like that. They're thinking something maybe like a parakeet or something like that, that's a little bit smaller in stature, and maybe it needs a little bit more safety and security. So Maslow is saying that we've got to build those up. Once we have reached the physiological and the safety needs, then he says belongingness and love. We start getting into the psychological needs. So the way that we think, the way that we feel. And belongingness and love has to do with intimate relationships and friendships. Now, an intimate relationship, according to Maslow, doesn't necessarily mean like a romantic intimate relationship. It could be friends, it could be family, it could be those relationships that we develop where we really get to know people, and the friendships where we get to know people and we feel a sense of belonging, and where we kind of know where we fit in relationship to other people. Like we kind of like, this is my group, this is my tribe, I know where I fit in. And that's really important, but also it's how we feel about ourselves. That too is a psychological need, and that's where Maslow says we must fulfill those esteem needs. So like self-esteem. Maslow says that there needs to be a sense of prestige or feeling of accomplishment as one has done something, something important. Not just that I fit in with this group of people, but that I have somehow created something or done something that is significant, that I feel good about myself, and I kind of know who I am. And that kind of comes with a sense of confidence. And we see differing kind of aspects of those birds when we look at Maslow this way. As we move up beyond the psychological needs, assuming that we can get the basic needs and the psychological needs, now we get into the areas of self-fulfillment. And this is where Maslow focuses on self-actualization. So where you really achieve your full potential, you have made it, you have reached success. This also includes creative activities. So there's two parts here. Now, like this success, it could be something like graduating from Carl Albert State College with your associate's degree. You are now a college graduate. You have reached a level of success in your educational goals. That's a pretty big deal. This could be getting a job. It could be having a child. It could be passing a test. It kind of depends on how we define that success. But Maslow says there's that second piece to it where you have creative activities. Somehow you have created something that maybe it's new, or maybe you have whatever it is, kind of activities. It could be like Maya Angelou herself. She is very creative. As you find out, she's a singer, she's a dancer, she's a poet, she's like all of these different things that she creates. It could be something painting. It could be writing a research paper for something like academic. It could be holding an event. It could so many different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be artistic, but there has to be some kind of creative activities. Maybe it's even something that you participate in. So that's that self-actualization, that self-fulfillment, where you kind of have reached it, you fulfilled all these needs. And Maslow says if you've done all those things, you are self-actualized. And it could be a temporary thing, it could be a permanent thing. It kind of depends on how we apply those situations. Now, if we look at caged bird, though, let's look at this. I've got 4 questions that I want you to consider as you look at this outside text. I want you to put on Maslow as a lens. And let's take a look at the poem itself and see what we come up with. Now we've got caged bird here. Now I want you to look at caged bird through Maslow's lens, and there are 4 questions that I want you to respond to. The first one, which bird knows more about freedom? Is it the free bird or is it the caged bird? If you look here, we've got some interesting ideas. The free bird has 2 stanzas, or in this case, a stanza in a poem is like a paragraph. There are 2 sections of this poem that work around the free bird, and the others are about the caged bird. This whole poem talks about freedom. Okay, so you might want to start with, what is freedom and how do you define it? And then how is it defined and displayed, or is it defined and displayed in the poem? So which bird knows more about freedom? Explain why. Show, kind of look at what I'm looking for is an answer that kind of refers directly back to the poem for your evidence. So that's question number 1. Question number 2 has to do with applying Maslow in a way to consider what is it that each bird has to do. Now, most students are going to talk about what the birds get to do. For example, the free bird who leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun ray and dares to claim the sky. That just sounds so wonderful. It sounds so freeing, and he gets to go where he wants and do what he wants. And all of these things, he gets to kind of pull down through the drive-through and get a big old fat worm off the lawn. And that sounds wonderful. Sounds like a lot of freedom to me. Okay, but what does he have to do? Does he have to find food? Does he have to find, for example, when you get into Maslow, oops, wrong one. How does he get food, water, warmth, and rest? How does the free bird attain safety and security? What does he have to do to get that? And that should lead into some more conversation. Now, we go back into caged bird. What is it that the caged bird has to do? Okay, well, he's kind of in a cage. He seldom stalks down his narrow cage. Like you see, excuse me, I totally reworded that on my own. A bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. And we see this guy like, okay, he's kind of stalking in his cage. Stalking is not moseying around like a wonderful, it's a really great experience. He's a little ticked off about it. You stalk back and forth something, and he's kind of not just pacing, even like he's mad with it. He's stomping around. Okay, well, his wings are clipped, his feet are tied. What's he doing? kind of think about it. Go back into Maslow and let's take a look. How does this cage bird get his basic needs met? What does he have to do to in order to meet these needs and to move forward? What do they have to do? Not just what do they get to do. Because when we look at what the cage bird gets to do, it doesn't look like he gets to do very much. So kind of think about that and explain it. Why is it that the cage bird gets to do this or doesn't get to do this? Think about it and then refer back to the text. So question number 2 is, what does each bird have to do and why or why not? Now question number 3 has to do with the birds themselves and how far they go up that pyramid, how in that structure. So which bird has those basic needs met, the physiological needs, the safety needs? Which bird does have the psychological needs? Do they both have a sense of belongingness and love? Do they both have a sense of esteem? Have they accomplished something, for instance? And do they have self-actualization? The answers might surprise you. Now, if you're seeing those things or not seeing those things, kind of explain, what is it? How far do they go up in that pyramid? Do they reach self-fulfillment? And kind of explain why or why not. Be sure to refer back to the poem on there. Now, number 4, this is like the big critical thinking thing. Now we know that Maya Angelou is an individual and an artist who believes that one's voice is extremely important. We know through her personal history, we know through her art, her poetry, her activism, that one's voice is how we communicate our thoughts and ideas. This is extremely important to her. So if articulating one's voice is so important to her, why is it that the cage bird is the only one who has a voice? How come the cage bird is the only one who sings? They're both birds, right? I love birds sing. So kind of look at what we've learned, what we've kind of gone through, your analysis, the notes that you have already done. Look at Maslow, look at questions 1 through 3, and then think about, why is it that the cage bird is the only one who sings? I look forward to coming or seeing what you come up with. I know it's going to be amazing. These conversations are going to be really important. Now, when you put in the assignment, go ahead and type it up and put it in as an attachment. And these are ideas that are going to come back when we get into our paper. We're going to get into description of what it is and how it works. And as we start pulling these different pieces together, and we're going to analyze the descriptive use of meaning here. Keep in mind all these things that you've taken notes on and your answers to these questions, because more than likely you're going to need them when you start writing. As always, if you have any questions at all about what we've talked about, if you have any questions at all about, well, anything, then don't hesitate to contact me. I'm here for you. I want to make sure that you not only just pass the class, but I want you to really learn. I want you to become a great writer. So one more time, here's the question number 1. Get my little notes here. Okay, so which bird knows more about freedom? The free bird or the cage bird? And explain why. Number 2, what does each bird have to do and why or why not? Number 3, using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which bird, if either, reaches self-actualization? And number 4, If the voice is so important to Maya Angelou, why is it that she only has the cage birds singing? He's the only one with a voice. I can't wait to come, I keep saying that, I can't wait to watch and see how your ideas are really kind of evolving in this. This is always going to be a wonderful paper. So I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Have a great day. And as always, thank you for spending your time with me.